convertible with turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Welcome to Rogers Center, Game 2 of this three-game series against the Chicago White Sox. Robin Ventura's ball club scored 5 runs in the 7th to erase a 4-run deficit. And they would eventually win the game 7-5, and the Blue Jays have their hands full. It's a tough lineup for Chicago. When you look at the White Sox, they've got a lot of good hitters up and down the order. Adam Eaton will lead things off, then the veteran Jimmy Rollins, and the number 3 hitter is Jose Abreu. His numbers against Dickey are impressive. He's 4 for 9 with 3 home runs, and all of those 3 home runs have come right here at Rogers Center. So he's going to be a tough out tonight. Todd Frazier had a big night last night, including the go-ahead 2-run double, and over his last 7 games, he's hitting .375 with 3 homers and 6 RBIs. A new addition to this White Sox lineup, and he's gotten off to a good start.
Came up with a big hit in last night's game, the eventual game winner, that double to left field. R.A. Dickey gets ready for his 5th start of the season. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning to Baltimore, but settled in, pitched 6 innings for the first time this season. And he has had his share of problems with the White Sox, 0-3 over his last 4 starts. But if you dig a little bit deeper, 11 games, he's given up 40 earned runs in 48 2/3 innings for a .278 batting average against. This is a tough team, the Chicago White Sox, and they will battle him with that knuckleball. The problem he ran into in Baltimore, especially in that first inning, they were hitting his fastball. He was falling behind with the knuckleball. He threw his fastball in there. Manny Machado hit a 3-0 pitch off the wall for extra bases. Chris Davis hit a fastball off the wall for extra bases. But after that, he started using his knuckleball, started changing speeds, and he was outstanding.
He has had a good knuckleball at times this season. Let's take a look at the defense for the Blue Jays. Behind R.A. Dickey, Michael Saunders, Kevin Pillar back in center tonight. Jose Bautista's in right. Find Darwin Barney. Well, tonight he's at second. He moves around. He was at third last night. Matt Dominguez has been called up from AAA Buffalo. He starts at third base. Tulowitzki and Barney up the middle. Encarnacion at first. And Josh Tolley, as he always does, will catch R.A. Dickey tonight.
John Gibbons was talking about Matt Dominguez. Says first and foremost, he's a good defender. He can play on both sides of the diamond, meaning third base and first base. And you will see him playing some first base also here with this team. He's going to fill in for Josh Donaldson tonight.
Dickey is set. Adam Eaton is in the box. Here's the first pitch of the game. It's down for a ball, and we are underway. Adam Eaton, 2 for 5. He had a big hit in the game last night in that 7th inning. A 2-run single back through the middle.
He is a pesky, pesky hitter. He's thinking about hitting that ball back through the middle all the time. He's got some speed. And I'll tell you what, if you make a mistake, he can juice a ball for extra bases.
He has 5 extra base hits so far. That's 3-0 now. That's where you got to be careful. And Dickey doesn't like to throw too many 3-0 fastballs. There are the numbers for his career against the White Sox. Came back with 2 fastballs. Full count now to leadoff man. Jimmy Rollins had a big night last night. Rollins had a 3-hit ball game. Short hop. Tulowitzki knocks it down, and he's not going to be able to make a play. Troy Tulowitzki had that short hop come up, and he knocked it down, and then when he went to grab for it, he missed it. I don't know if he would have been able to throw out Adam Eaton.
Ball stayed down on him. It's a short hop, and normally sure-handed. It stayed down on him. You see the glove's just not down far enough. Looks in his glove, thinks it's there, and then sees it on the ground. You see him take a quick look to see where Eaton was, who can really run.
Scored a base hit. Short hop base hit. Jimmy Rollins fouls off the first pitch. Now on the board they flash an error. But we have been told in the booth it was a base hit. Rollins hits it hard, but foul down the right side into the seats.
If the scoreboard is right, that is something very rare. First time we have seen that.
Tulowitzki had not made an error, if indeed that is an error. It is an error, his first as a Blue Jay. Oh, 0-2 to Jimmy Rollins. That Sales upstairs. We mentioned Rollins with his 3-hit game last night. He scored a couple and drove in a run. He had a base hit as a right-handed hitter and drove in a run against Brett Cecil in that 7th inning. Rollins gets a piece of it.
You know, one of the things that R.A. did after that first inning against Baltimore is that knuckleball stayed in the strike zone a little bit longer. Started throwing more quality strikes, and he will have to change speeds, I think, with that knuckleball. When he gets to 2 strikes, he reaches back for a little something extra, trying to get the strike out.
It's a fly ball to right, not that deep. Bautista moving over to his right. Waits for it, and Rollins is retired.
I think there are some veteran hitters in this lineup for the Chicago White Sox. Rollins, and Frazier, Abreu, Cabrera, Navarro, smart hitters, and they will try to make that adjustment along with R.A.
This is Jose Abreu. We mentioned Abreu has 3 career home runs against R.A. Dickey, and they've all been hit right here at Rogers Center. First pitch strike. That changes the complexion of every at bat. I don't care if you're a knuckleball pitcher or not.
Still the best pitch in baseball. Strike 1. You can expand a little bit now. You can get a little bit more aggressive the more strikes that you throw.
Dickey is very good at neutralizing the running game. He is quick to first and unloads the ball in a hurry. Big cut, and Abreu's behind 0-2. Abreu's 29 years old. He came up in 2014, was the Rookie of the Year, Silver Slugger, and he finished 4th in the MVP voting. And quite a first season with Chicago. This should be 2. Barney flips to Tulowitzki, back to first, double play. So Troy Tulowitzki, committing his first error as a Blue Jay, gets the double play to get Dickey out of the first. The top half of the first inning, they kept the White Sox on the board. Troy Tulowitzki committing his first error as a Blue Jay. Came in his 61st game with the Jays. It was a hot shot. He knocked it down, but couldn't find the baseball. So let's take a look at the Blue Jays lineup. A game under 500, and Michael Saunders had a big night in his return to the lineup last night. Saunders had 3 hits. He's got a 6-game hit streak, 11 for 26. He has really flourished since they put him in the leadoff spot. And how about Josh Donaldson against Chris Sale. He's got 3 hits, but 2 of those have been home runs, and he's driven in 6 runs. So look for Josh Donaldson to have a good night tonight.
It's going to be tough against Chris Sale. He has won his first 4 starts of the season for the first time in his career. He has dominated Oakland, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, and the Los Angeles Angels. Now faces a Blue Jays team that has scored 25 runs over the last 4 games. He has pitched at least 7 innings in each of his starts this season. And Robin Ventura, the manager of the Chicago White Sox, defines an ace as a guy who extends winning streaks and stops losing streaks. And that's a perfect description of Chris Sale.
Chris Sale has really been tough on hitters in his last 2 starts. Hitters are 4 for 52 against Sale. Saunders hits it to Laurie. The throw on time at first base. Nice play by Brett Laurie. Takes a hit away from Michael Saunders.
Got a great angle on that ball. He plays a deep second base because he's so quick and he can cover so much ground. Watch the angle that he takes. He's in short right field. Angles back, catches it, makes a strong throw. A little bit not accurate over at first base, but a strong throw to get the runner at first.
Here's Josh Donaldson. We mentioned his 2 home runs against Sale. He takes a strike. Donaldson DHing. Trying to get his legs healthy. There's a fly ball to right. Eaton's got room. 2 up, 2 down for the White Sox. Let's take a look at the defense. And we have mentioned it in last night's game. This is the most improved aspect of their play. The defense has really been tightened up. Cabrera, Jackson, and Garcia in the outfield. Todd Frazier, Jimmy Rollins have come in here and really helped the infield. Brett Laurie, very athletic at second. Jose Abreu is a good defender at first base. And Deanna Navarro. We all know about how good Navarro is.
And defense played a part in the game last night. That's Adam Eaton in right field. 3 outfield assists. That's tied for the most in the American League. Already is a +8 in defensive run saves this year. He saved the run last night with that great throw to third base. That was right before the home run by Saunders, so it saved him a run.
He threw out Edwin Encarnacion in the 3rd inning. Trying to go first to 3rd. And the base hit by Tulowitzki.
That's his breaking ball. Likes to throw it right at the shoe tops of a right-handed batter.
Bautista does a good job of laying off that pitch. It's quickly a full count. And when Encarnacion drove in 3 last night, he'll be next if Bautista can reach. And he does. Another walk for Jose. Chris Sale didn't walk many in his last 2 starts. He hasn't walked a batter. That's just the 4th batter he's walked this season. He's got 4 walks against 26 strikeouts.
At first in the Major League Baseball in average walks, fewest walks. Bautista, he's amazing how he can take those borderline pitches.
Encarnacion goes after the first pitch and bounces it down the left field line. Edwin had a 2-run double in the first to erase an early White Sox lead. Then he had an RBI single in the 3rd. Finished up the night 2 for 5. We talked to a lot of Blue Jay hitters about Chris Sale and what makes him so tough, and most everyone agrees it's how fluid he is with his delivery.
He's very quick, throws everything out of the same arm slot. What a lot of them said was he's so herky-jerky, he's got a lot of moving parts in his windup, and all of a sudden, boom, the ball's on top of you. Throws across his body just a little bit, and the ball seems to have a little extra speed to it when it gets towards home plate.
There goes Bautista. Navarro's throw is in the dirt. Good tag by the second baseman, Laurie. And Bautista is called out at second. Lance Barksdale, the umpire. Navarro's throw was a little bit short, but Laurie was there to take the short hop, and it looks like The Blue Jays are going to have a look at the replay. Bautista extends his left hand out, and you can see Laurie blocks him off the base. It's all part of the game. Now Bautista is out. That ends the inning. No score after one.
Center. It was just 2 years ago that Matt Dominguez was the starting third baseman for the Houston Astros. Now he finds himself in a situation where he's battled back from being in the minors and is back starting for the Toronto Blue Jays in place of Josh Donaldson. I had a chance to talk to John Gibbons about his role today, and John Gibbons says he will play some third base when needed, but for the most part, he'll play the role that Chris Colabello did, meaning he'll face some tough left-handed pitching, play some games at first base. As for Donaldson, I spoke to him today. He said the leg feels much better. He took some ground balls at third base today and says that he expects to be back in the lineup at third tomorrow. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry. It's good to have Matt Dominguez here. He has been an everyday third baseman for 2 full seasons with the Houston Astros. Todd Frazier will lead things off for Chicago. He takes a first pitch strike from Dickey.
First thing that John Gibbons said about Matt Dominguez is he can really field. So he feels good that if Donaldson has to DH, he's got a big leaguer who can man third base over there. And it gives him a little bit more versatility. He was also saying yesterday that Darwin Barney, because he was playing third base, had to play the whole game. They really didn't have a backup yesterday in the infield.
All right, there's a good knuckleball. Just sails out of the zone late. 1-2 to Todd Frazier. And Jorge's had a good knuckleball. I mean, we have seen it this season. It's as good as I've ever seen him throw it. It's a high pop-up. Barney going out. Bautista calls him off. The right fielder is there and makes the catch.
Yeah, he's had a good knuckleball, and for the most part, he has kept it in the strike zone. The problem he has had at times this year is finishing off hitters. He'll jump ahead with that knuckleball, and he'll have 2 strikes against him, and next thing you know, he will lose them. So he's got to finish off those hitters.
It's going to be easy for Dickey if he continues to throw strike one, because the hitters then will be thinking about swinging more often.
And that's where he's had a lot of success, when he faces teams that are free swingers. They go up there and they've got long swings. They don't make solid contact. He's had problems with teams that go back through the middle or try to wait on him, try to hit the ball the other way. Not a lot of powerful teams.
Melky Cabrera has no interest in swinging at all right now. He walked twice last night.
And he's not doing him a favor. He's giving him a free strike, and he hasn't thrown one in there yet.
There's a strike. It's 3-1 now to Melky Cabrera. Cabrera, the left fielder, batting .329 for the season. Took a little off that knuckleball and got a strike. The drive into center. Pilar is there and makes the catch.
Swing for the fences and save during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
Two down, top of the second, no score. Brett Flory took an 0 for last night. He was 0 for 5. That snapped a 5-game hitting streak.
He was involved in an interesting play last night, wasn't he, to end the game?
Yeah, you don't see that very often. A bouncing ball hit off the bat of Michael Saunders, and Troy Tulowitzki, running from first to second, got hit by the baseball.
So that ended the game yesterday. Blue Jays have also lost a game on a passed ball to end the game, and they've also lost a game where the last play of the game was a slide at second base. 3 losses on plays you never see in baseball.
R.A. Dickey really slowed that one down. Just 66 miles an hour. Dickey retires the side in order. His first strikeout of the night comes against Brett Laurie. That floater just 66 miles an hour. He couldn't wait long enough.
A big business meeting you need to form. Why do it in a stuffy old boardroom when you can do it right here at Rogers Center? Join the big leagues. Business meeting, ball game, great combination. Our account executives will find the package that best suits your needs. Go to BlueJays.com/luxury suites to get a Blue Jays Acura luxury suite. Buck?
That's a great idea, Barry Davis. Why not have your meeting right here at Rogers Center? Watch a ball game, enjoy a good meal, and have some fun while getting some business done. Edwin Encarnacion was at the plate when Jose Bautista was called out at second, trying to steal. Bautista, first steal attempt of the season. There's a drive to left field. Melky Cabrera is there, and Encarnacion hit that one off the end of the bat. That looked like it might have been a changeup, and Sale does a great job of mixing in all of his pitches.
You know, looking at some of the numbers with Chris Sale, you're absolutely right. He's thrown his changeup 30% of the time on 0-0 counts. So first pitch of at-bats, he likes to use that changeup, introduce it very early in the at-bat to those hitters, and then try and get them out with fastballs and breaking balls.
Troy Tulowitzki, the shortstop.
What did Donnie Cooper call that today, that first pitch strike? Free strikes. You can flip that ball in there and get ahead. It's all about trying to make some kind of contact or getting some kind of resolution in the first 3 pitches of an at-bat.
Yeah, we had a great visit with Donnie Cooper, the pitching coach of the White Sox today, talking about his philosophy. We asked him what he liked about Chris Sale. He said everything. He throws strikes, he works quickly, he pounds the strike zone, and he mixes all his pitches in. He can get his second and third pitches over for strikes. He doesn't walk anybody. The Bautista walk with 2 outs in the first was just the 4th batter he's walked all season.
Sometimes when you've got aces like this, you try to interject something as a coach. He says, I don't need to do anything with this guy. I just let him go do his thing. I said, I might go get some water for him and maybe a towel, something like that, but I don't want to overcoach him.
Full count to Tulowitzki, 1 out. Fouls that straight back. Got a pretty good pitch to hit. Kevin Pillar did not play in the game last night. He is back out there. It's the first game he's missed all season. In fact, he hasn't missed an inning prior to last night. Tulowitzki takes a walk. How about that? 2 walks already in the ballgame. Well, the White Sox are off to a great start, and large in part to the success of their starting pitching and their bullpen. They have both pitched very well.
Look at the earned run average for the starters and the bullpens. #1. Opponents average #1 whip. They don't walk anybody. And that has to do with just getting your pitches over for strikes. You have to be able to throw your curveball for a strike. You have to be able to use your changeup, throw it for a strike.
Kevin Pillar batting .266 for the season, looking for his first home run of the season. Pops this up. Looked like another changeup. Laurie backpedaling into the outfield makes the catch. 2 away. You know, you mentioned a great start by the White Sox. Coming into this game, they have allowed 52 runs over their first 20 games. It's the first time since 1966 they've had that kind of start. In '66, they allowed 49 runs in the first 20 games, with a pitching staff that included Tommy John, Gary Peters, and Joel Horland. Tommy John pitching for the White Sox.
Yeah, that Tommy John. The famous Tommy John.
Matt Dominguez, first big league at bat since 2014. They had a home run cut. Dominguez hit 16 home runs in 2014 as the everyday third baseman for Houston. He had 21 home runs in 2013, his first full season in the big leagues. He had a pretty good shortstop partner in high school. Dominguez played third base at Chatsworth High School in the San Fernando Valley in California. Mike Moustakas was his shortstop. Both first-round picks.
How about that? How'd you like to be the coach of that team?
He was pretty smart. Dominguez was drafted by Houston in 2007. Of course, Moustakas was drafted by the Kansas City Royals. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Blue Jays have drawn 2 walks off of Chris Sale. Strike 3 call. He dropped that backdoor breaking ball on him. Chris Sale picks up his first strikeout of the night. Gets Matt Dominguez with that backdoor breaking ball.
Blue Jays flyaway contest is now on. Enter for your chance to cheer on the Blue Jays in Boston with WestJet. Go to bluejays.com/WestJet flyaway to enter. And fans, if you are going to go, and Buck, I'm sure you can attest to this, go do a tour of Fenway Park before the game. It's well worth it.
I've toured the park a couple of times before the game. Most of the time it's about 8 o'clock in the morning for a day game. But it is well worth it. They do a nice job of taking you around the ballpark and taking you up into the green monster seats.
You can go up on the roof now and walk around the roof there at Fenway Park, which is pretty cool.
The DH tonight is Avisail Garcia. He is 24 years old. He is from Venezuela. He came to the White Sox in a 3-team trade in July of 2013. 3 balls and no strikes to leadoff man here in the 3rd. Dickey has faced the minimum with the benefit of a double play to end the 1st. Catches the inside corner with that fastball.
Teams have started to swing at that 3-0 fastball when they fall behind. This is a guy who might be primed for that because he's got power.
Deep drive, and this one is hit deep to center and off the facade of the WestJet flight deck. Home run for Garcia, his first at bat against R.A. Dickey.
That's why you don't want to fall behind big sluggers like that, because they're looking for the ball in one area, and when you deliver it into that area, they're able to knock it out of the ballpark. He fell behind 3-0 through the fastball, and he took one look at it for good measure, and then got this knuckleball that just stayed out over the middle of the plate. There's not a lot of movement on it, and Garcia will pick up his 3rd home run of the season.
That is his first hit off of Dickey. He had been 0 for 3.
You can see the kind of power that he has. Looked like he was fooled somewhat, but he had a great weight shift. And the ball goes off the facade.
Ganner Navarro batting, and it's up and away for a ball. It's 1-1 on the catcher.
How about that approach by Navarro on that first pitch? He's trying to hit a ball over to left field. There's only one defender over there.
Trying it again. If you're going to do it and go against the shift, now's the time to do it with a knuckleballer on the mound. You have a lot of time to manipulate that bat. And Joe Girardi made a statement tonight saying if he were commissioner, he would eliminate the shifts. He said the baseball field was set up to play a particular way. He said he didn't like the shifts. Well, he does it a lot. And if he were going to encourage that mindset, maybe he should start not playing the shift.
I think the one way to beat the shift and change it is try to hit the ball the other way.
Troy Tulowitzki takes that last short hop and fires to first.
And teams are not going to change unless the opposition shows that they can go the other way. It doesn't take long. If you want to bunt a ball over there or do what Navarro tried to do.
You can see all the players on the bench acknowledging what Navarro was trying to do. He was just trying to slap a baseball through the vacated position at 3rd. Number 9 hitter is Austin Jackson.
You can't do that though in baseball, can you? Eliminate shifts,
no.
Tell the defense where they can play?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Now, I can appreciate the thought, but you know what? If you want to change things, how about getting the bigger bat, choking up on the handle and slapping the ball the other way?
That's the surest way of changing it.
Little chopper. Dominguez will have to barehand. He does. Not in time. What a play by Matt Dominguez. He told you he could play 3rd base, but Austin Jackson outruns the throw for an infield hit.
He just could not get enough on that throw because the swinging bunt from Jackson was almost perfect. Dominguez had to come a long way. Look at this. He's playing back now. He's got to come a long way. It's bouncing, and look where his body's turned. It's almost turned towards the Blue Jays dugout. So he's got to throw all the way across his body. Just doesn't get enough on it to get Jackson.
Adam Eaton hit a hot shot to Tulowitzki, and Troy committed his first error of the season. And Eaton was erased on the 6-4-3 double play hit into by Jose Abreu. R.A. Dickey giving up the leadoff home run here in the third, just the second home run he's allowed.
He's done a much better job this year, keeping the ball in the ballpark.
2-1 to Adam Eaton. Eaton was a late round draft pick of the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was picked in the 19th round in 2010. On the ground, Barney, Tulowitzki back to first, and they get it bang bang at first, but the Blue Jays turn their second double play of the ball game. The White Sox jump out to a 1-0 lead on the home run by Garcia.
Ball game, enjoying those big, comfy green chairs in the TV comfort zone. And tonight we welcome guests of TD. Meanwhile, we look over at the Jays Care Community Clubhouse, and we welcome folks from McMaster University. And they don't have any textbooks out, Buck. I'm really surprised that they'd all be there studying for exams.
It's an off night, Barry. You see the Blue Jays dugout. R.A. Dickey talking with Luis Rivera, who is responsible for the defensive positioning, and Darwin Barney. He drives it into left center. Cabrera cuts it off and gets it back in, and ball got away from Brett Laurie. Leadoff single for Darwin Barney.
That discussion is all about the Navarro at bat, how he was trying to hit the ball the other way. We might see a different defensive alignment for the Blue Jays the next time Navarro comes up.
Darwin Barney's done a nice job. He has got an opportunity to play a little bit over the last several games. Josh Thole showing bunt and pulls the bat back. Josh had 2 hits in the game last night, filling in for Russell Martin.
Keep that bunt on.
He squares and fouls it off.
You've got a pitcher like Chris Sale who is tough, and I mean tough, against left-handed batters. You get a leadoff hit with your number 8 guy and a left-hander hitting number 9, you got to keep that bunt on. Turn that lineup over and get a runner into scoring position.
Yeah, you want to make sure you don't hit into a double play, obviously. Barney's got decent speed. Sale's done a great job of getting the ground balls this season. Vast improvement over the past. I think he has kind of de-emphasized the strikeout, utilizing that changeup and the running fastball to get the ground balls. He squares and pulls the bat back on that high pitch.
I think you can say that about a lot of the Chicago White Sox pitchers this year, that they're very confident in their defense and they're throwing a lot of first pitch strikes, trying to get some early resolution to some of these at bats, and that's why they have pitched so well so early in this season.
That's popped up. Abreu, the first baseman, will make the catch, and Tolley pops out. We mentioned the ground ball percentage. Chris Sale, last time out, got 63% ground balls. He was really tough on the Twins. That was at home in Chicago.
Lots of early outs, and that's a difference from Chris Sale than when he first came up to the big leagues. When he first came up to the big leagues, it was fastball, slider, lots of strikeouts.
Sale wanted to start.
He wanted to start, and his general manager at the time, Kenny Williams, who's now the executive vice president, said, I'm moving you to the bullpen until you learn how to use your changeup, throw the changeup in the game. You're going to burn your arm out, and I'm not going to have that happen to one of my best young pitchers. It was fastball, hard slider. He didn't have a changeup. He went into his office, Sale, and had a nice little discussion with his general manager, said, I'm not taking you out of the bullpen until you start to throw a changeup. It's one of his best pitches now.
Saunders lifts it into center. Darwin Barney going back to first, and he will stop as the throw is on the money.
Super Slow-Mo Cam. Brought to you by Rogers 4K TV. Get closer to the action with 4 times the resolution of HD alone.
Pat, you mentioned the conversation Kenny Williams had with Chris Sale. How much do you think Mark Burley impacted that conversation?
Hey, all you had to do was sit there and watch Mark Burley and watch him operate and how he was able to use his changeup in the many, many years that he had in the big leagues.
Josh Donaldson chases that high pitch.
But Kenny's right. Kenny played in the big leagues. He knows. And a young pitcher who puts a lot of torque on his elbow, especially by throwing a lot of sliders, said you're going to burn out until you learn how to throw a changeup.
Well, and another thing the pitching coach Don Cooper has really put into play for all of his pitchers is refine your delivery. If you have a good delivery, you can throw all of your pitches for strikes. He said we just try to make sure all of our pitchers can refine their delivery so they can hit all the different quadrants of the strike zone with multiple pitches.
With multiple pitches. Let me flip that curveball in there when I'm behind if I have to, or use the fastball inside and outside. Up and down.
Donaldson flew out to right field his first time up. 2 outs, a man at first. Darwin Barney with the only hit off of Chris Sale. Another part of Don Cooper's philosophy is throw it higher than high, lower than low, and farther than far. And you can see in that strike zone, pitches up, off the plate outside, and pitches down. Popped up. Third baseman Todd Frazier in fair territory. That'll do it. Leadoff single. The Blue Jays can't advance him. Now it's time for the Ultimate Cleanup Crew, brought to you by Home Hardware's exclusive line of the ultimate hard-hitting and tough-on-grind cleaning products.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to @Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for more details. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. It's a great opportunity to keep track of all your favorite teams around baseball. Lots going on tonight, of course. Full schedule of games. Boston is ahead of Atlanta 4-1. They won 1-0 behind Rick Porcello as Jackie Bradley Jr. hit a home run. A 1-0 game on a home run.
I think they needed that too. After what they went through in Houston on Sunday night, a 5-hour game, they didn't get in till about 6 o'clock in the morning, and then had to play that night.
Number 2 batter is Jimmy Rollins. He's behind 1-2 to R.A. Dickey. Rollins strikes out. Second strikeout of the ball game for R.A. Dickey.
Looks like he's starting to hone in with that knuckleball. This time stays up and starts to dip down and away, and Rollins swings right through it. R.A. was talking the other day after that start in Baltimore where he has to really concentrate and staying, quote, in the doorway, meaning his momentum's got to go towards home plate. If he stays in that doorway, that's when that knuckleball is going to stay on line.
Jose Abreu fouls off the first pitch. First baseman grounded into a 6-4-3 double play in the first. Dickey is starting to feel it. Well, you make a great point about the reference to the doorway, and that's one of the tips that Dickey has gotten along the way from all the great knuckleballers. Charlie Huff, Phil Niekro, and Tim Wakefield are all part of the group that has mentored Dickey over the years. Ball is hit deep to right. Bautista's on the run. He's not going to get it. It is a fair ball. Abreu is headed for second. He'll get there with a 1-out stand-up double. For Abreu, his 3rd double of this season. It's his 5th hit against R.A. Dickey in 11 at-bats.
One of his strengths is his ability to go the other way. He's not just a pole hitter to try and hit a home run. This is a 2-strike knuckleball floating outside, but look at the ability to go the other way. Plate coverage and then keep it fair down the right field line. Just fair.
I have a theory about why Abreu is so good at hitting breaking balls and knuckleballs. We'll talk about that. Todd Frazier, he's a tough out. He flied out to right field. But I think because Abreu played international baseball for so long, he had to deal with a lot of breaking ball pitchers and finesse pitchers because they didn't have power arms. So he became a great breaking ball hitter. As an amateur, he played for the Cuban national team, and they played on all those World Cup tournaments, the WBC, and he became a very good breaking ball hitter.
You got a chance to see him over in Japan?
2013 in the WBC. He reminded me at that time of Tony Perez. He looks a lot like Tony Perez at the plate.
Big and strong, the ability to hit the ball all over the place.
And hits the ball well to right field.
The other way, making him a good RBI guy.
And he was, of course, unsigned at that point in 2013, and the White Sox signed him that October after the WBC. Pulled on the ground. Dominguez will look Abreu back. 2 away here in the 4th. R.A. Dickey has 3 key points that he always has to work on, and one of them is staying in the door frame. The other one is finish with your arm in the middle of your body, and Phil Niekro suggested that your follow-through is an athletic follow-through right toward the hitter.
That all starts with keeping your momentum going towards home plate, because I think if you do that, staying in the doorway, if you will, the way he calls it, is your arm's going to follow suit. Your arm's going to follow where your body goes. And if you fall off too much, if you're twisting and sliding off of that mound, the arm's going to drag, and the knuckleball's not going to do anything.
Ball and strike to Melky Cabrera. He fouls it back. Now, we saw Luis Rivera and Tim Leeper, and they're always checking on the defense, and they'll play it according to the spray charts. But I think with R.A. Dickey, you have to play as straight away as possible, because no two knuckleballs are the same. And I don't care how many at-bats a hitter has, he's not going to see the two same knuckleballs, and his hit pattern is going to be all over the place. How about that? He crosses him up with a fastball. R.A. Dickey. 3 strikeouts so far. The White Sox have a 1-0 lead, but the big bats for the Blue Jays will come up. Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion, and Troy Tulowitzki. Jays down 1-0. Anderson Hall of Baseball reside in the American League, and Chris Sale with the White Sox and David Price now with the Red Sox. We thought we'd take a look at how similar they are.
This is since 2012, and they're very similar. 291 earned run average for Sale, 3 for Price, and all the other numbers very similar. The only difference, the bank account. David Price just signed a big contract, and Chris Sale is working on a multi-year contract that he got a hometown discount with the Chicago White Sox.
Jose Bautista will lead things off. Sale signed an extension March 7th of 2013 for a total of $32 million. David Price just signed a contract for $217 million. Breaking ball, he missed that outside corner trying to drop it on that back door.
I think Navarro broke his glove. We've seen this a few times already the first couple of weeks of the season. While we have a second here, I had a chance to talk to Jose Bautista before the game today, and I asked him if he ever faced Randy Johnson. And he said he did. I said, well, how does Chris Sale compare to Randy Johnson? He said Chris Sale is better than Randy Johnson. I said, why? He says Randy Johnson never had the great changeup now that Chris Sale has.
Bautista lifts it high into right field. Adam Eaton is there, makes the catch. That's an interesting comparison. Bautista had 11 at-bats against Randy Johnson. He's 4 for 11. Now he is 1 for 6 against Chris Sale.
He says he's tough to pick the ball up against Chris Sale. Randy Johnson, he said, threw out of the same arm slot every single time. Not that it was easy to hit against Randy Johnson, but he says it's very difficult to hit against Chris Sale.
Hot shot. Rollins gobbles it up behind second, throws out Encarnacion.
The all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo. The 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Troy Tulowitzki drew a walk against Sale his first time up. There's that first pitch breaking ball. That's what Don Cooper refers to as a free strike. You know Tulowitzki's not going to be swinging at that first pitch curveball, so drop it in there.
How many times do you go up there looking for a first pitch curveball? Not much.
No.
I mean, especially against a guy who's got 3 very good pitches. You're not going to sit on one of them, are you?
That ball was off the plate inside, but Sale gets the call. Tulowitzki's behind. A ball and 2 strikes. Called out on that backdoor breaking ball. Sale really mixing up the pitches to Tulowitzki. 3 up, 3 down in the 4th. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio.
For Canada's team. Only 4 days left, though, to sign the Blue Jays fan board and have your cheer included in the Players Tunnel at Rogers Center. Visit RogersCelebrates.com for more details. Not only is time running out, but room is running out on that board.
Sure is. It's really jammed up, Barry, but everybody make an effort to get your best wishes on that board. 1-0 Chicago. Laurie goes after the first pitch. Brett Laurie struck out on a 66-mile-an-hour knuckleball his first time up. Dickey has recorded 3 strikeouts so far in this ball game.
That's smart. I think that's the time to use that slow breaking ball.
There's a hot shot through the left side into left field for Laurie. A leadoff single. That'll bring up Avisail Garcia.
He's got some power. This is a 3-1 knuckleball. It stays on the inner half, and Garcia bangs it off that second deck. And as he gets into the dugout, he's looking for teammates giving him some high five. They give him silent treatment. Huh?
3rd home run of the season for Garcia. That's the only run of the ball game. Blue Jays have turned a pair of double plays so far. Two and 0. He's fallen behind Garcia in both of his at-bats so far.
First time 3-0, and remember he threw a fastball right down the middle that he took. He might throw a fastball here.
Danner Navarro, who has trimmed down quite a bit, is on deck. Rio taking all the way. I'm surprised he wasn't swinging at that pitch.
He's already seen one 3-0 fastball. Maybe he thought, well, I homered on the 3-1 pitch last time. I'll take this one and look for something out over the plate again.
Dickey chases Laurie back at first. Garcia doubled in the 5th inning last night. That snapped an 0 for 16. He also added another hit, a single, in the 7th. He takes it inside for ball 4. That's the first walk issued by Dickey so far. And now Navarro will come to the plate, and last time up with nobody aboard, they really had an exaggerated shift. That's not going to be the case this time with runners at first and second.
No, they're going to play it straight up, and really interesting to see what Navarro does here. There's the defense now. Remember, they had 3 infielders on the right side and only 1 on the left side. And Luis Rivera is telling his infield, watch, I mean, if he bunts, react to it.
I don't think Navarro's bunting in this situation. He's too good a hitter. Batting in the 8th spot. Batting just 139. Ball on the strike now to the White Sox catcher. Danner played a couple of years here with the Blue Jays. He did a nice job. Obviously, last year in the postseason, he was the catcher for Marco Estrada in 3 starts in the postseason. Now he's bunting and doesn't do a very good job of it.
Maybe that's why he wasn't bunting. They gave him 1 pitch to swing the bat, and they gave him 1 pitch to bunt. He's swinging away now. The only reason I was thinking he might is if he gets the ball on the ground, it's a double play. And if you score 1 more against Chris Sale, you're looking for 1 run here, because then it takes 2 runs to beat you.
There's a little looper that's going to drop for a base hit. Laurie read it perfectly. He's going to be stopped. Oh, now they got him. Good play by Tulowitzki. I'm surprised they stopped him. But Laurie said he got a hand in. He said, I want to have a review. Saunders made the throw. Tulowitzki was right there at the bag, and when Laurie made the big turn, and now they're going to review it. Laurie adamant about being safe.
He's walking off the field, but they're going to take a look at it. I just assumed that they were going to send him. You're right, Brett read it perfectly. And then Saunders recognizes that he made that wide turn, and Tulowitzki slipped in behind him. They're going to take a look at this one. Let's see if he gets back in, but I was looking somewhere else on the diamond because I assumed that he was going to score easily.
Yeah, I thought they were going to wave him no problem. In fact, Joe McEwing, the third base coach, had initially waved him home, then saw where Saunders was and threw up a very late stop sign. Saunders saw the play unfold and saw that they stopped him, so instead of throwing to the cutoff man, he threw it to third. Good play by Michael. This replay review is powered by Samsung.
And Laurie was pretty adamant when he got up. Let's take a look at it one more time. He throws behind him. There's Tulowitzki. Watch the right hand. And I think the hand is in there. Look where the glove is. It's placed on top of the hand. So if there's clear-cut evidence, if they say he's in there, and it certainly looks like he is in there, he's going to be safe.
Dan Iasonia, the third base umpire, got totally blocked out by Tulowitzki. He probably assumed the throw was going to go to the cutoff man like everybody else in the ballpark, and he did not rotate around far enough to get a clear angle at that tag play at third. All he was looking at was the back of Tulowitzki, and he couldn't see Laurie's hand.
He was watching the play develop because, we all assumed that Laurie was going to be sent home. Heads-up play by Michael Saunders to recognize that and throw behind the runner. Tulowitzki goes to put the tag down. The right hand is on the base, and there's the tag. And he is called safe. So a good challenge by the White Sox.
Laurie was adamant as soon as they had called him out to tell the third base coach and eventually the bench that he had beat the tag. So now the bases are loaded, nobody out. Austin Jackson had a swinging bunt up the third base line in the third inning. Single walk single for Chicago here in the fifth. Fly ball down the left field line, deep but hooking foul, out of play. Dickey has 3 strikeouts so far. He needs number 4 right here.
Either that or a comebacker, so they can go 1, 2, 3 on a double play. Looks like the middle of the diamond for the Blue Jays will trade a run for a couple of outs. Play for 1 run.
This is going to drive in 2 at least, all the way to the wall. Laurie's in to score. Garcia right behind him, and now they're going to stop Navarro at third. Austin Jackson, a 2-run double to the gap in right center.
Good piece of hitting right there by Austin Jackson, staying right on that. Had the swinging bunt up the third base line his first time up. That time he stayed back just a little bit longer and was shooting that ball the other way. It's another fastball out over the plate. And he stayed right with it, hammered it into the gap in right center field. He was thinking 3 all the way, but they had to hold Navarro. No place to put him, so he's got to come in there with a fastball, and that ball is all the way up against the wall. 2 runs easily scored. Navarro is held at third.
For Jackson, RBIs number 5 and 6 for the season. The double is 4th. Top of the fifth, 2 runs in for Chicago, still nobody out. Left field, and Saunders somehow caught it. Tagging at third is Navarro. Michael Saunders lost it in the lights, but kept his glove high above his shoulder. Navarro comes in on the sac fly, but the Blue Jays are fortunate that they got an out. Now the Blue Jays are going to appeal that he left too early, and Dan Iasonia calls him safe. Look at that effort by Saunders.
How did he catch that? It's right in the lights. He starts to turn away, leaves his glove right up there, and it finds the pocket. It'll go as a sacrifice fly for Eaton, and another run will score, but that could have been dangerous.
He stayed with it as long as possible and got into the vicinity, and right at the last minute had no idea where the baseball was, but caught it somehow. Navarro comes in to score. It's a 3-run inning here in the fifth. Jackson at second. Jimmy Rollins 0 for 2 with a strikeout to this point. Rollins signed late in the offseason, right as spring training began, and he was a week late reporting to the White Sox. But he won the job in the spring. The veteran had an opportunity to sign with San Francisco as a utility player, or there was a possibility to go to San Diego as a second baseman.
But like in baseball, there's always connections, isn't there? There's always a connection where players end up in certain organizations.
Jimmy Rollins was working out in the offseason with a hitting instructor that worked with Jim Thome. who's an advisor to the White Sox, and he called Tommy and said, hey, Jimmy Rollins can help you guys. Fly ball to left. This should be an easier play for Saunders, and it is.
This Blue Jays Rogers 4K broadcast is powered by the Samsung 4K SUHD TV.
Two outs. Jose Abreu 1 for 2. He doubled down into the right field corner in the 4th. Goes the same direction. Bautista was shaded in that direction. He'll get over and makes the catch right up against the wall. Abreu making another bid for an extra base hit, denied by Bautista, who had taken a step toward the line, but Chicago scores 3 runs in the top of the 5th. Bautista leans into the crowd for the final out of the inning.
Your Blue Jays spirit. Enter the TD Comfort Zone contest by posting a video or photo of you, tagging at Blue Jays and including hashtag TD Tuesday on Twitter or Instagram for a chance to win. For full contest rules and details, visit bluejays.com/comfortzone. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. Beautiful Toronto sign now near City Hall at Phillips Square, and great. Sooner or later, it's going to warm up a little bit. We'll all be able to get outside and enjoy the great surroundings here in Toronto. Kevin Pillar, Blue Jays need to get something going against Chris Sale. They have but 1 hit. That was a leadoff single by Darwin Barney in the 3rd. Popped up, playable. Abreu into foul territory. Valera's retired on the pop-out.
Don't let him get into a groove, which it seems like he is starting to pound that strike zone and use all of his pitches. Get into a groove, you get into a rhythm. Next thing you know, he's thrown up zeros for 7 or 8 innings.
Sale's already pitched a shutout. He's locked in now, finding that outside corner. Matt Dominguez at AAA hit .311 for the Buffalo Bisons. 2 homers, 14 RBIs. This is exactly the reason that loss last night hurt so much. The fact you had to face Sale tonight. Had a 5-1 lead, and White Sox scored 5 runs in the 7th.
Mentality of a baseball player, thinking about a whole season, it's about winning series. And you got a 3-game series against the White Sox. You win game 1. You got a tough one against Chris Sale. You can beat him. There's no doubt about that. But if you win game 1, and if you happen to lose game 2, you can still win the series by winning the 3rd game against Quintana tomorrow. Losing that first game and then having to face Sale, that's scary. It's a scary thought.
The White Sox have won 4 in a row in 6 of their last 7. This is a 7-game road trip. They will go from here to Baltimore for a 4-game series. Popped out of play.
Well, that's the beauty of having a quote ace, a guy who shuts you down. We're saying that Robin Ventura says an ace is a guy who's always the guy that extends winning streaks and stops losing streaks.
Another pop into the seats down the right side.
They're trying to extend winning streaks now when you've got a guy like that. And you just come to the ballpark with a great attitude, saying we got a great chance to win tonight.
And that's why Marcus Stroman was so upset he had to come out of the game in the 7th inning. He walked Austin Jackson after being hit on the elbow on the comeback, or he walked Jackson on 4 pitches and wasn't even close. So then they went to the bullpen, and the bullpen just couldn't stop the bleeding in that inning.
And that's why he was upset, because he wants to be that guy. He wants to be that #1 guy.
A breaking ball for a strikeout, as Sale has now retired 8 straight.
Second time that he gets Matt Dominguez with a breaking ball looking. Watch this thing bend. You can't give up on it if you're a right-handed batter. It looks like it's going to start way outside and it just sweeps to the middle of the plate. That's why Bautista says he thinks Chris Sale is a lot tougher to hit than Randy Johnson was.
And Randy Johnson had a powerful fastball and a hard slider. There's a breaking ball. Barney hits it sharply, but right to Laurie. Chris Sale has found his groove. Blue Jays go down in order in the 5th. Sale has retired 9 in a row.
Stanley Cup playoffs get back at it tomorrow, and we have lots for you to choose from. 7 o'clock Eastern on CBC. It's game 1 of the Islanders and Lightning, round 2. And then at 10 o'clock Eastern on Sportsnet, game 7 between Nashville and Anaheim. Always love game 7s.
Nothing better than a game 7, and obviously be tomorrow. The crowd reacted to the Raptors score. They have tied it up in the 4th quarter. They were trailing by 17 early in this ball game.
Not that we want you to turn over to watch them or anything.
High pop-up off the bat of Todd Frazier, and Matt Dominguez makes the catch.
It was a 10-2 run by the Raptors to tie it up at 92.
Ari Dickey gave up a 3 spot in the top of the 5th. sacrifice fly. Adam Eaton and Blue Jays were fortunate that was a sacrifice fly. Michael Saunders lost it in the lights and just speared it. If that ball gets by him, it's a guaranteed inside the Parker for Adam Eaton. Nice play by Barney. Darwin Barney takes a hit away from Melky Cabrera.
I was saying last night in the broadcast that he's the perfect utility type of infielder. He's going to give you great at-bats when he plays, but he can play second, third, and shortstop. Remember, he came up as a shortstop. He's also won a Gold Glove. He's not going to hurt you whenever they play you, and he's going to do something special. This time he takes a hit away from Cabrera. Darwin Barney making some contributions tonight.
Darwin's 30 years old. He played college baseball at Oregon State after the College World Series as a freshman. On that team, Jacoby Ellsbury was the star of that team. But Barney said that college experience was terrific, playing in that atmosphere. College World Series pretty special. You go to Omaha and it's a packed house and you get a chance to play against great players that you'll face, chances are, down the road in the big leagues.
You're on TV, right? Pressure-packed games.
And Darwin said that he was not ready for professional baseball out of high school, that going to Oregon State really helped him mature and develop as a player. 2-2 to Brent Laurie. Another slow knuckler.
Let's see you throw that one even slower than that. Brent's always been that guy who wants to get out there and get on that fastball.
Fly ball to right. Bautista backpedaling a few steps. 3 up, 3 down for R.A. Dickey. Took just 8 pitches in the 6th. Now it's over to the hitters. See if they can break through against Chris Sale.
Jays on Sportsnet. Presented by the all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
It's a great shot of the skyline of Toronto. CN Tower standing tall over Rogers Center. Roof is still closed. Hopefully when the Blue Jays get back in the month of May, they'll be thinking about opening it up. Josh Thole, check swing, foul on the first pitch from Sale. Thole popped up a bunt attempt in the 3rd. Thole hits a fly ball to left. Melky Cabrera was shaded in that direction. 1 down. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Chris Sale was the first to 4 wins this season, trying to make it 5 tonight.
It's the first time in his career that he has won his first 4 starts to begin a season. He did it one other time, but it took him 7 starts to do that.
He went 5-0 in 2014. Well, he's got that breaking ball zeroed in now. He has thrown it to lefties, and he's backdoored it to right-handers.
I'll tell you, I've been sitting here now for the last couple of innings watching him saying, okay, now how would I try and get a hit against this guy? He, on top of outstanding stuff, he's got that. He can pitch. In the combination of him and Navarro back there calling plays, calling pitches with his fastball, looks like they're going to try and elevate it. Fastball, changeup, breaking ball. It's a tough combination.
And of course, Navarro knows this Blue Jays lineup like the back of his hand, playing with them for 2 seasons. Another strikeout. 2 outs. Josh Donaldson, he'll come to the plate. He's got 0 for 2 so far. Today, the Blue Jays took a team picture. And look at Josh Donaldson. He wants to be as tall as Troy Tulowitzki, so he stands on his tiptoes. And then Russell Martin says, you can't be taller than me. I tell you what, these guys are major league players, but they're still boys at heart.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Josh Donaldson, a little bit, when you see those kind of things. George Brett was like that, wasn't he?
That's a great call. I had never thought about it, but they are so similar.
Having fun. Yeah. Come to the ballpark every day, play hard, make everybody around you better, and you're a great player. But you have fun doing it, whatever you do. If it's on the plane, on the bus, at the ballpark, in the locker room. I mean, he's always trying to have fun with his teammates.
And high strike. It's 1 and 2. That's a great call. I never thought about it. As you know, George and I were roommates for a long time in Kansas City, and they are very similar.
But you know, when the game starts and they get between the white lines, it's all business and intensity.
High fly ball. Melky Cabrera was deep, but he's got plenty of time to get under this one. Chris Sale sails through the 6th. He's got a 4-0 lead. Drive the Game is brought to you by the all-new Honda Civic, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Leading off the third inning, Amaseo Garcia hits this 3-1 pitch from R.A. Dickey out of the ballpark. He had a career-high 13 home runs last year for the White Sox. That's number 3, the first run of the ball game. And it's our drive of the game as Garcia gets the silent treatment when he gets back to the dugout.
Garcia walked and scored in the 5th. Dickey hasn't been able to get ahead of him. There he throws the first pitch strike. Both of the previous 2 at-bats, Garcia had a 3-0 count. Passed and diving Darwin Barney for a base hit. Garcia's been aboard all 3 times.
Swing for the fences and save during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
So the White Sox now have 7 hits. Garcia has 2 of those hits. Yanner Navarro, the catcher, he's got a hit, single. A looper into left field.
That is as straight as you can get it right now. Remember the first time when he was up, they had the shift on.
He hits one high and deep to right. Bautista looking up. A 2-run home run for Yanner Navarro. His 2nd of the season.
And Navarro says, shift this. He doesn't have to straighten out the defense. I'll do it all by myself by sending this one out of here for a 2nd home run of the season. He can hit. He's got a nice little short stroke. He can hit the ball to left center, right center that time. It's got to feel good, I guess, if you're Yanner Navarro coming back to the Rogers Center against your former team and hitting a 2-run homer.
Navarro hit 12 home runs for the Blue Jays in 2014. He had 5 last year. And here he hits his 2nd of the season, 2nd of the game by Dickey. He thought that was going to be a routine out to right that flew out of the ballpark. Dickey came into this game having allowed just 1 home run in his first 4 starts. He gives up 2 tonight. So R.A. Dickey leaves the ball game having given up 6 runs on 8 hits. Joe Biagini will come in. Dickey pitches into the 6th, but the second home run of the ball game off the bat of Deanna Navarro knocks him out of this ball game. He goes 6 plus 2 batters. He's charged with 6 earned runs on 8 hits. Walked 1 and struck out 3. Long ball, a problem again tonight.
The long ball there, the home run by Garcia, and then Navarro. He will give way to Joe Biagini, who gets ready for his 5th game of the season. There are the numbers for Biagini. He has yet to give up a run. Last worked on the 20th when he was charged with that loss against Baltimore, 2/3 of an inning. That was the game where the Blue Jays lost on a pass ball.
Austin Jackson is at a perfect start to his night. He's 2 for 2. Goes after the first pitch. Bautista with a long run. He's not going to get there. Austin Jackson's 3rd hit. A little blooper into right. Biagini making his 5th appearance of the season. He's pitched just a total of 4 2/3 coming into this game. Adam Eaton, the leadoff man, goes after the first pitch and whips it down the left field line.
He's got a very good sinker, Biagini. It's the first time, obviously, that the White Sox are taking a look at him, but with that sinker, he's got the best ground ball percentage of any reliever. So keep it on the ground, take your chances.
Biagini made his major league debut here at Rogers Center on the 8th of April. He was able to pick up his first career strikeout. He got David Ortiz, and talk about a tough assignment. Your major league debut, you come in to face Bogarts, Ortiz, and Handel Ramirez.
And handle him. He handled him.
Joe has always been a starter throughout his minor league career. That's a little looper that's going to drop for a base hit. Jackson stops at second. Eaton's first hit of the night. He reached on an error in the first.
Well, you know what? There is nothing you can do about that. He made a great pitch on Jackson. He fisted one off into the outfield for a hit, and then makes another good pitch to Adam Eaton. He gets jammed up, and he gets a base hit. And Joe, sometimes it just doesn't work. Keep pounding that strike zone.
Jimmy Rollins, the shortstop, 0 for 3 so far. He struck out against Dickey in the 4th. 6-0 Chicago. One thing we have seen from Biagini, he'll throw strikes. He comes in there and he'll challenge those hitters. We mentioned he's made 86 minor league starts, so his background is as a starter. Rollins with a check swing foul. You mentioned that game in Baltimore. He took the loss on that pass ball by Josh Tolley with the bases loaded. They got the first 2 outs of that inning, and then Caleb Joseph hit a double to right. Joey Rickard had an infield single to shortstop, and then they walked Manny Machado intentionally to bring Adam Jones to the plate. Then the ball got away from Josh Tolley.
One of the 3 crazy losses that the Blue Jays have had this year on final plays.
Good block by Tolley. Yeah, you mentioned those 3 unusual game-ending plays. Bautista was called out on the double play down in Tampa Bay in the opening series because of a slide. He hooked the leg of Logan Forsythe, and then last night Tulowitzki gets hit with a base hit, bouncing ball in the infield. He's called out. Game is over.
You might see one of those a year, and the Blue Jays have seen 3 of them. All game-ending plays already this year. There's a good sinker.
Rollins strikes out. That's the first out of the top half of the 7th.
Watch the movement on this. He gets on top of it. Little two-seamer with some movement on it.
Jose Abreu, he has doubled in 3 trips to the plate. Bautista made a nice catch down in the right field corner, reaching into the seats to record the 3rd out of the 5th inning. One and 0 to Abreu.
The White Sox have been winning. They have the best record in the American League. They really haven't gotten this guy started hitting right now. Abreu, probably their best player, best hitter, most productive hitter.
Todd Steverson is the hitting coach, and you can see he's talking to Melky Cabrera about what to expect from Biagini. This is the White Sox first look at the Jays' big right-hander. If I were Blue Jays, that's what I would do to Abreu. Just try to stay tight with that fastball. He takes care of the outer 3/4 of the plate, handles it well.
He can hit out there. Just keep it inside so you can crowd him so he can't extend those arms. He's a very good breaking ball hitter. A good 2-strike breaking ball hitter.
Bouncing ball, that's into the outfield. Bautista will come up throwing as Jackson comes in to score. Jose Abreu bounced the ball over the head of the first baseman into right field.
Again, nothing you can do about that. He made another really good pitch, and the White Sox are playing good baseball and good things are happening. Look at that. How many times do you see a ball like that go to the first baseman's head from a right-handed batter? Doesn't happen very often. But Abreu will take it, and he is now up to 10 RBIs on the season.
When the White Sox got here for this 3-game series, they didn't have a hitter in their lineup with double-digit RBIs. Now they have 2, Todd Frazier and Jose Abreu. There is Todd Frazier. He's 0 for 3 tonight. Another jam job, and that's going to be caught by Tulowitzki as Biagini continues to make quality pitches. Got that ball inside to Frazier. Got the pop-up. Now there are 2 outs. Runners at the corners. The White Sox have scored 7 runs on 11 hits, including a pair of home runs. The Blue Jays have managed just 1 hit. Blue Jays have only had 3 base runners. Bautista walked in the first, Tulowitzki walked in the second, and Darwin Barney had a single in the third. Two balls and no strikes to Melky Cabrera, who got a little scouting report from his hitting coach, Todd Steverson. Bouncing ball, Tulowitzki behind second, throws on the run. That closes out the White Sox in the top of the 7th. But another 3-run inning for Chicago. Well, there are a bunch of good left-handers around baseball, and we have seen David Price and Chris Sale firsthand. Kershaw, Dodgers will be here on the next homestand. Get a chance to see Clayton Kershaw, and of course Madison Bumgarner, the great lefty with the Giants. But that's 4 pretty good left-handers.
And we'll probably see Bumgarner when we go out to San Francisco right after that homestand with the Dodgers. There's some really good lefties there. Price and Sale and Kershaw. I don't know if Chris Sale gets his due around baseball. Maybe because he hasn't pitched in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's the fact that the White Sox have had down years lately, but they are back on top.
Think about all the great pitchers the White Sox have had in their history, and he has the record for most strikeouts in a season.
Bautista called out on that big breaking curveball, and Alan Porter rings him up. There must be something in the water in Chicago that has helped out the pitching, because look at what both of these teams have done so far. Robin Ventura in his 5th season with the White Sox, Joe Madden in his 2nd season with the Cubs, and they are both off to great starts, due in large part to their pitching.
The great pitching, both of them. And if you look at the leaderboards around Major League Baseball, those 2 teams are up there in all of those categories. You can throw in Washington in there also with their great pitching staff. But Chicago starts tonight 14-5, #1 in the Central.
He drive to center. Austin Jackson says this one's gone, and it is. Number 3 on the season for Encarnacion, just the 3rd surrendered by Chris Sale.
We have seen some tape measure jobs here, some tape measure home runs from Encarnacion. I don't know if we've seen a ball hit harder than that one right there to dead center. He got all of that one.
Tulowitzki goes after the first pitch.
Right down the middle of how he can extend through, head down, and drives that one out of the ballpark right into the WestJet flight deck in center field.
Edwin hit a couple of balls last night to center. Looked like they had a chance to go out, but that one, there was no doubt about that one. It was just a matter of how far out it was going. Homer number 3, RBI number 15 for Encarnacion. Tulowitzki drives it to right, Eaton over quickly to his left to make the catch. 2 down. We talk about the strikeout leaders. We mentioned Sale has led the American League in strikeouts since 2012, but you can see the percentage of strikeouts since 2010. He strikes out 28.3% of the batters he faces, and that's a pretty big number.
You don't have to play defense when you're striking that many guys out. 274 last year for a franchise record.
Rips it into left. A 2-out single. Third hit for the Blue Jays off of Chris Sale.
Well, you can see what he's doing here. He had a 7-run lead when this inning started, and it's here. Here's the ball. Hit it. You're going to have to hit your way on because I'm not walking you. Using his fastball, that was hit for a home run, and then another fastball that was hit in the left field for a base hit. Robin Ventura is not showing any signs of emotion. He's only thrown 89 pitches.
Matt Dominguez, the third baseman. He goes out for the first pitch and pops it in the air. Center fielder Austin Jackson calls for it. Edwin Encarnacion puts the Blue Jays on the board. This home run is third of the season, his 200th as a Blue Jay.
Jays Flyaway contest is now on. Enter for your chance to cheer on the Blue Jays in Boston with WestJet. Go to BlueJays.com/WestJet Flyaway to enter. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. Blue Jays finally break through against Chris Sale, but they trail 7-1. Brett Laurie will start things off for Chicago here in the 8th. Joe Biagini came in to take over for R.A. Dickey.
He's been charged with a run, but he sure has pitched well enough. 3 bloopers.
Ground ball, Tulowitzki backhands, throws on the run. Right on the money. And Tulowitzki committed his first error on the first play of the ball game today. But watch this throw. It's amazing how he's so accurate.
I asked the guy who was on the receiving end of those more so than not, Justin Smoke, the other day, and I said, what is it like to catch that ball over there? Because a lot of times when you see infielders throw sidearm like that, the ball's got a hook on it and a tail, and the ball's moving all over the place. His is pretty straight, and Justin said it might dip a little, but it might go down, but it doesn't fishtail. And that's very rare when you see a shortstop being able to throw underhand like that. And he's got something on it.
It's always on line, and that's what's unusual. And most of the time, it's right in the first baseman's chest. Avisail Garcia, the big DH, he's had a perfect night at the plate. Bottom of the order has done a lot of damage tonight. Yonder Navarro has singled and homered. He has driven in a pair. And the number 9 hitter, Austin Jackson's 3 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Oh, what a play by Dominguez. Got it. Oh, Matt Dominguez. We told you he could pick it at third, and right there was a shining example.
He took away extra bases from Avisail Garcia, and Garcia could run, and he's thinking single, double if this ball gets by him. Dominguez quick on his feet, good hands and a strong arm, and he makes it very close over there because Garcia can run. But what a play by Dominguez. Came up with the Marlins with a reputation as a good defender, then went over to Houston. Another reputation as a good fielder, and you can see why.
Yonder Navarro homered the man aboard last time up. Here's another shot.
Looked like it was by him. Full extension. And he doesn't really have time to crow hop, just come up and fire across the diamond.
Boy, he took a great angle on that ball because he knew it was hit hard. He went angled 45 degrees toward the foul line and made a terrific play. He made a good play on Austin Jackson in the third. A swinging bunt, he barehanded, and Jackson just barely beat it at first. 2 outs. Yonder Navarro 2 for 3 tonight. Popped up, long run for everybody, and it's going to land on the warning track and bounce into the seats. They were playing in that shift, and nobody really had a good shot at making a play.
It's time to convert your big outdoor tasks into short, effortless work. Make the great outdoors even greater with Honda Power Equipment.
Curveball in the dirt. Full count to the number 8 hitter. Austin Jackson waits on deck. He is 3 for 3 with a 2-run double tonight.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits from the bottom of the lineup for the White Sox tonight. A couple of home run and 6 runs scored.
Well, it takes ball 4. First walk issued by Joe Biagini. Blue Jays with just a single run on 3 hits. Two balls and no strikes. I mentioned Troy Tulowitzki was charged with his first error in 61 games with the Blue Jays. It was just his 75th career error. He came in the major leagues in 2006. This is his 11th season.
And that wasn't an easy play.
No, it was a hot shot. Initially ruled a base hit. But for comparison's sake, Jimmy Rollins has played since 2000 in the major leagues, and over the last 11 seasons, when Tulowitzki first came into the league, Jimmy Rollins has committed 84 errors, 89 errors compared to 75 for Tulowitzki. Jackson strikes out. Tole completes the strikeout, and Biagini picks up his second strikeout of the game. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Blue Jays trail 7-1. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio.
Join us next month for the Throwback Thursday T-shirt night presented by Honda. On Thursday, May the 5th, the first 15,000 fans will receive this Throwback Thursday ALDS Game 5 T-shirt. Blue Jays, Rangers 707. Go to BlueJays.com for tickets. Buck, I spoke with Deanna Navarro about that series, and he said it brings back so many wonderful memories being back here at Rogers Center this week.
Deanna Navarro said that's one of his fondest memories of his time with the Blue Jays. He said the other fond memory he had was when he got a standing ovation for stealing second in 2014.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was great.
He enjoyed his time with the Blue Jays, and only the fact that he wanted to get more playing time, and Chicago has given him that opportunity. So he's back in Chicago for a second time. He played with the Cubs and had a 13 home run, 300 season for the Cubs. He's back with the White Sox in Chicago. Darwin Barney, first pitch swinging, pops out to the third baseman.
You can never blame a guy for wanting to get a few more at bats, right?
Not
play a little bit more, especially if you knew that you were going to be a backup here, as Drew Storen has gotten up, and he's now starting to get loose. Something happened there where a ball came down on the field.
Now he throws one in and get another ball. There's something's going on that was really strange. Now they're throwing the ball out over third. Everybody set? Only one ball on the field.
I think we got to what happened here. After the pop-up, Chris Sale's got a ball in his hand, and Navarro got another one from the home plate umpire, threw it, almost hit him in the head. You know, they've got stats for everything now. And in his last start, Chris Sale tells you how dominant he has been. One hard hit ball against him. That was the Los Angeles Angels in that game. One hard hit ball. That's how good he has been this year.
Fires that fastball past Josh Tolan. 6 strikeouts for Sale.
Still plenty in the tank. That was his 96th pitch of the game, and this one registered 96 miles an hour.
He hasn't really used that 96 as he's used the changeup very well. He really used the breaking ball and used that breaking ball to both sides of the plate.
He got a feel for it early in this ball game. I would imagine, because there's not a shutout at stake, that this would probably be his last inning, just to give him a little bit of a blow.
Michael Saunders sits on that breaking ball and hits it off the wall in right. Saunders with his 8th double. Had a 3-hit game last night, including a base hit off Dan Jennings, a left-hander.
Stayed right on that breaking ball from Sale. Told you he's had a good one tonight. Look at that thing wave in there. Saunders stays right with it. He doesn't give an inch. Stays on it. He's got himself another extra base hit.
Zach Putnam. He was the winner in the game last night. Picked up the win. Putnam's first win of the season. He faced 4 batters and retired all 4 with an inning and a third of work, couple of strikeouts, and then gave way to Dan Jennings. Donaldson bounces it over the mound. Laurie is there. And that'll end it. Chris Sale dominant tonight, allowing a run on 4 hits. We'll go to the 9th. It's all Chicago. Storm comes on to make his 9th appearance. He pitched on Sunday in that ball game against Oakland, coming in to try to put up a quick 0 here in the 9th.
He had a quick inning against Oakland, a 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout, and trying to get some work here. He'll face the top of the lineup once again. Eaton, Rollins, and Abreu, a chance to get some work in that pen. They used 4 relievers in last night's game. Storm's the 2nd tonight.
Adam Eaton He had a single in the 7th, had a sac fly in the 5th, reached on an error in the 1st. So he has gone 1 for 3 officially. This is the 7th game Storen has faced the White Sox. There's a strike now, 2 balls and a strike. Blue Jays just trying to sort out their bullpen. And they have really had problems in the early going. That ball is just off the plate.
They had problems last year in the month of April sorting out the bullpen. Remember, Brett Cecil was the closer at the beginning of the season last year, and John Gibbons quickly switched to Miguel Castro and then switched again, all in the month of April.
Oops, Adam Eaton's going to have to go over and get his bat. He thought it was ball 4. Umpires aren't really fond of that, and Eaton will discuss it with Alan Porter. Full count now. Leadoff man here in the 9th. Blue Jays have allowed 50% of their inherited runners to score out of their bullpen. There's a fly ball, and this one's hit a ton. Adam Eaton is glad it wasn't ball 4. It's his first home run of the season.
And he is sprinting around those bases. 3rd home run of the night for the White Sox. And he picked on a fastball that stayed on the inner half of the strike zone and put a charge into it.
Adam Eaton, a 2-hit night. He's driven in a pair with a sac fly and a solo home run. The White Sox, everybody was talking about, well, they're in first place because of their pitching. They've come into this series and they're swinging the bats.
Showing off some power. Garcia in the 3rd. Navarro in the 7th.
This ball's going to drop. Bautista plays it on a hop. Jimmy Rollins is headed for second, and he'll get there with a stand-up double. Rollins snaps an 0 for 4 with a double. Now Jose Abreu. He's had a 2-hit night. The White Sox had 7 runs on 11 hits last night. They've got 8 runs on 13 hits in Pat Venditti. Starting to loosen up. Rollins at second for Abreu. Good fastball, a lot of late movement from Storen.
Yeah, that pitch was really tying up Abreu. He's got good movement on that fastball. He just has to get it down right now.
Coming into this game, the White Sox were 12th in the American League, batting .231, averaging 3.4 runs a game. They've scored 7 and 8 respectively in the 2 games here against the Blue Jays. inside. Joe Biagini pitched 2 innings. He probably could have gone a little bit longer in this game. And Storn, I would imagine, not anticipating he was going to work in this game.
Yeah, he just pitched a couple of days ago an inning. He is the 8th inning man, the setup man for the Blue Jays.
Breaking ball. A couple of hops to Darwin Barney. Rollins moves to 3rd on the out. Well, it doesn't get any easier for the Blue Jays tomorrow. One of the most underrated pitchers in baseball, Jose Quintana, is off to a good start. Look at his ERA, 1.82. He'll go up against Marco Estrada. He too is off to a good start here in 2016. But Quintana has had 3 straight 200-inning seasons, and he might be the most unrecognized pitcher in baseball.
Unlucky. I mean, he's had so many no decisions, the king of the no decision, if you will, over the last 3 years. So another tough one tomorrow for the Blue Jays, and they've got Estrada. Marco's looked great so far this season.
Blue Jays recognized this was going to be a challenge with the White Sox and their great pitching staff. The infield is halfway for Todd Frazier. Frazier tonight 0 for 4. We mentioned the bottom 3 in the lineup have done the heavy lifting tonight. Aviseo, Garcia, Deanna Navarro, and Austin Jackson. They have really done a number. 7 hits from the bottom 3 in the order in support of Chris Sale.
Look at all the runs scored from the bottom of the lineup also.
6 of the 8 runs have been scored by those 3. Deanna Navarro, a 2-run home run in the 7th. That knocked out R.A. Dickey. Austin Jackson's had 3 hits, including a 2-run double. Two balls and 2 strikes to Todd Frazier. Base hit to center. Frazier snaps his over tonight. Jimmy Rollins jogs in with the 9th White Sox run.
That is called plate coverage right there. And also, he wants to join the hit parade. 14 hits tonight for the Chicago White Sox. Infield in, just cover the plate, get it into the outfield, get yourself a hit and an RBI.
9-1 Chicago. Melky Cabrera, he's hitless in 4 trips. Not anymore. He bounces one through the right side. 4th hit of the inning for Chicago. And John Gibbons will make a pitching change. Rough inning for Drew Storen.
Hoping to get some work and some quick work, and throws 19 pitches, gets a couple of outs. Venditti's got to try to finish off this inning.
Saw Chicago, Pat Venditti into the ball game. Brett Laurie, the batter, when we come back. Pat Venditti. Venditti, he pitched in the game last night, recorded an out, pitched 1/3 of an inning. He struck out Adam Eaton to get out of the 8th, but then gave up a double to Jimmy Rollins and walked Jose Abreu, and he was out of the game. Still just one out. Runners at first and second. Todd Frazier's at second. Melky Cabrera's at first. Brett Lawrie takes one inside for a ball. Laurie's 1 for 4 so far.
Everything everybody's talking about the White Sox and their pitching, their hitting hasn't been too bad either. They got some experienced hitters in that lineup tonight, showing some power.
Lawrie waves at that slider. 1-2. Last night they had a 5-run 7th inning. Tonight they've had 2 3-run innings, and they've scored 2 here in the 9th. They got a nice mix.
Some good balance. And the middle of their lineup really hasn't hit like we've seen them hit in their careers.
Abreu came into this game batting .176. Todd Frazier .224. Melky Cabrera's got off to a good start. End of the ball game hitting .329. That's Alex Avila on the bench. He's on the disabled list with a hamstring injury. He was one of the 2 catchers that the White Sox signed in the offseason. But they brought in a lot of character guys. Character guys with pedigrees of championships. Lawrie takes the breaking ball well off the plate. So the bases are loaded. And that'll bring Avisail Garcia to the plate. He started it all for Chicago back in the 3rd with a leadoff home run off R.A. Dickey. His 3rd homer of the season. Blue Jays won the series against Oakland. Drew Hutchison picked up the win in that rubber match on Sunday. They had a 5-1 lead in the game last night and saw that evaporate. Miguel Gonzalez was the starter. The White Sox have only 1 off day in the month of April, so that's why they moved to that 6th starter called upon Miguel Gonzalez, and they just moved their rotation back, and Gonzalez was taken off the hook by his lineup as they scored that 5 spot in the 7th.
That off day was in Minnesota. They started the season with 8 straight games, then an off day, and then I believe it was 19 in a row they were going to play. Their next off day is May the 2nd. I don't know if the schedule makers were anticipating some rainouts or some freeze outs, if you will, in the Midwest, but they've played every game. And they're probably happy that they are, because they're hot.
Yeah, once you get those wins, you say, okay, let's keep playing.
Yeah,
I don't want any off days.
No rainouts, no schedule off days.
They did have a rainout in Cleveland. They made up a doubleheader. That'll be made up on the 23rd of May. This ball is slicing away from Pilar. He dives and makes another highlight reel catch. Frazier comes in to score. Pilar, never playing to the scoreboard, leaves his feet in this 9-1 ball game, and Garcia is robbed of extra bases.
And that'll go down as a sacrifice fly, but it could have been a whole lot worse if not for Pilar. You see that ball slicing away from him. Never gives up on the ball. Runs that one down, and it's now 10-1.
This could be even more lopsided had it not been for several good defensive plays tonight.
Michael Saunders made a great play in left field with the bases loaded.
Matt Dominguez at third took extra bases away from Garcia in the 8th. Bautista made a good catch down the right field line. No telling what it would have been had they not made those good defensive plays. Gianni Navarro, the switch hitter, turns around the bat from the right side. Of course, Venditti has the option to pitch from the right side or left, and he chooses left-handed to turn Navarro around. Two balls and a strike to Gianni Navarro. We're in the 9th. Another 3-run inning for Chicago. Chris Sale doesn't mind at all.
Looks like his night's done.
John Danks was supposed to pitch this game. He's on Sale's right. He was pushed back. Drew Storen started this inning. Three and two outs. Popped up. Encarnacion into foul ground. And the inning is over. But another 3-run inning for the White Sox will go to the bottom of the 9th. Chicago leads it 10-1. Chris Sale, 100 pitches on the nose, 8 innings, 4 hits. The only blemish was the long home run he gave up to Edwin Encarnacion. That came in the 7th, but boy, he had quite a run, and he was dealing all night with that breaking ball changeup and a great mix of pitches.
Had a walk in the 1st inning, a walk in the 2nd inning, a single in the 3rd inning, and then did not give up a hit until that home run by Edwin in the 7th inning. He was dealing tonight, looking to win his 5th consecutive start. And Zach Putnam is here to mop it up. 6 games already for Putnam, and we saw him yesterday pitch. In fact, he was the guy who got the win last night. Putnam came in, retired 2 batters in the 6th inning. And that was right before The White Sox scored 5 runs in the 7th inning, so he was credited with the win.
He struck out 2 batters in the 7th and then gave way to Dan Jennings. So he went an inning and a third with a couple of strikeouts. Ezequiel Carrera pinch hitting. Carrera pinch hitting for Bautista. Carrera's had quite a week. Got a chance to play in the Oakland series. Had a big series there. Batting .355, 11 hits in 31 at bats. Brian Goins has grabbed the bat. He will bat for Encarnacion. Edwin's home run, his 200th career home run as a Blue Jay. Unfortunately, it's not one that he can celebrate. But Edwin now is 2 home runs behind George Bell and 3 behind Joe Carter on the franchise home run leaderboard. And he smoked it.
Oh man, got all of it. We have seen him hit some long home runs here, but I don't recall him hitting one as sharply.
One down now for a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central. Here's Ken Reed and Ivanka Husband. Thank you very much, Ivanka. That's coming up right after this ball game. Jamie Campbell did a good job with Chris Colabello in a very emotional interview, and make sure you stay tuned for that.
Had a chance to listen to that during the pregame show today, and yes, tune into it. It was outstanding. Difficult to ask the questions and difficult to answer them as well, and a tough time for Chris Colabello. 1-1, 1 out. Ryan Goins, a pinch hitter, batting for Encarnacion. Justin Smoke has come out on deck as well. There's that nasty splitter, and Putnam had 2 strikeouts last night. He has struck out both batters he's faced here tonight. Both of them last night swinging, and both of them tonight swinging. Tough split. 2 outs now. Justin Smoke will come off the bench and bat, 3rd pinch hitter of the inning. Blue Jays will wrap up this homestand tomorrow night. Marco Estrada will match up against Jose Quintana. Blue Jays will have Thursday off, and you can see Smoke's reaction to that strike call. Like he was up and away. Ten to 1. 10-1. Blue Jays are facing some tough lefties. Sale tonight, Quintana tomorrow. Looks like Drew Smiley when they head down to Tampa Bay. So doesn't get any easier in the American League. Chicago White Sox on the verge of winning their 15th game. Jack Putnam strikes out the side and punctuates a disappointing evening for the Blue Jays. Chris Sale wins his 5th
The White Sox bats came alive, scored 10 runs on 15 hits, and hit 3 home runs tonight.
That's what happens when you've got an ace like a Chris Sale. You can relax just a little bit. You know he's going to go out there and do his thing. Avisail Garcia had an outstanding night. So did Austin Jackson down at the bottom of that lineup, and Deanna Navarro caught a great game, called a great game, and hit a home run. Blue Jays trying to salvage it tomorrow.
The Jays can split the 6 games on the homestand with a win tomorrow. Another left-hander, Jose Quintana, on the mound. Blue Jays lose 10-1. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Here's Ken Reed and Ivanka Osman.